I'm gonna talk today about what am I talking about today? Leaders? How I pick leaders, how I pick staff members, if anybody cares. So let me know. Tell me where you're coming from. I think some of your names. Actually, I don't know. I think I only know half of you on here so far. I definitely forget where all of you live. I know where Kyle lives. Kyle was in Fresno. I was just there, like an hour ago. Marvelous, what's up, Marvelous? Am I going to see you in 2 days, 3 days? Marvelous, I think I'm seeing you in 2 or 3 days. Justin Domino, you still like me? You're even here? I can't even believe that. That's crazy. Sogo, you weren't kidding. You really are going to be here. What are you in the middle of right now? David Riles? I don't believe it. I don't believe it. I think it's somebody else with a Riles name. Noah, am I going to see you in a couple days? Noah? Rogers, Minnesota. That makes sense because nobody in the central United States needs me or anybody apparently. So I'm told from all the people up there. Vancouver Island. That's not even Vancouver. That's just an island. Columbus, Georgia. It's not a real place. Don't make up names. Erie, PA. Also not a real place. That's just something they say on movies. Um, let's see. Joslyn. Where are you from? I can't remember. Okay. Adam. Let's see. Sydney's here. Jordan's not here. That's crap. I don't even believe that. Somebody, somebody stop hacking Jordan's account. That dude is going through a lot right now. He's got a new baby and stuff. Are hacking his account. He's not here. That's just a bunch of crap. Annapolis, Maryland. One of my favorite places ever. Did we meet before, Kent? Your name looks familiar. Are we friends? I'm probably offending you. I'm sure we went to high school and college together. I don't even know. Kevin, you're not real either. That's not even true. Jordan's gonna bounce off real quick. Don't try to stay around here and pretend like you listen to what I say, Jordan. Appreciate it. He says LC is here. That sounds like Life Church is here. So, all right. Well, I'm too late. Again, those of you watching playback, I can't believe you actually did not just scrub forward 3 or 4 minutes when I told you to do so on the little writing beneath this right here. It should be a red hat. It should be, but it's just harder to say than MAGA. Plus, I didn't want to offend people because I'm not really offensive. You know me. I try to kind of run right down the middle, ride the fence, keep the grundle tight as you ride right down the top of those fence posts. You know what I'm saying? All right. Let's get in this thing. Taylor Shytle sent me a voice memo at the wrong time. I'd love to talk to Taylor Shytle, but he's not here. Hey, you know what? That reminds me. Let's start out with this right here. I like to do this every now and then. Shout out some people that you need to know who don't know that I'm about to tell you that. Babe, you can't be grading my live if you're going to be on this thing. Anyway, I like to shout out some people that you should know, even though they don't know that I'm shouting them out. They probably will never see some of this stuff. So there you go. But Taylor Shytle is one of those. Taylor Shytle is one of my better friends. I don't use the word best friend a whole lot, unless Wade or Dustin is on here and they get offended by me saying that. So, but I tend to go with better friends. Anyway, Taylor Shytle, you should find him online somewhere, probably Instagram. He's out there. Definitely one of the better looking dudes I've ever seen. And it's annoying to me that we're almost the same age, but he still looks like he's 21, and that's really frustrating to me. Um, but but I'm hetero. I just wanted to point that out. Anyway, he's a good friend, really, really good guy. One of the most consistent, stable, unoffendable, biased towards action, hardcore linchpin leaders that I've ever known. And if you know Taylor, you know this. So go find him. He's in Columbia, South Carolina, just in case any of you want to go on a vacation to one of the hottest places in the world. Then you can go do that and see him. It is a nice city, though, about 6 weeks out of the year. Let's see who else you need to know. I was thinking about this earlier. The people you need to know. Oh, I said this on Instagram yesterday. I'll just repeat these. Seth Nolan, you need to know Seth Nolan. If you don't, I don't know where you've been. Forrest Coleman, a little harder to find, but you can look up Forrest Coleman. Those are two guys that are master class, elite level, ninja, Navy SEAL gratitude purveyors. It's the second time I've used that word in a week. So check those guys out. You can find them. If you don't know where to find them, it's because you don't know how to use the internet. So there you go. All right, let's jump in. I'm going to talk about one thing today, but give you two different angles of it. Those of you who pay me, God bless you. I thank you for that. You might have heard some of these things already, but I still think you're going to get a nugget to help you or at least be entertained by it. So there you go. I'm going to go through what I think through. This is not like a law. I'm not going to give you Bible verses. I will probably, as I always do on every single communication ever, I will reference plenty of examples in the Bible, but I'm not going to give you a Bible study. So if you're new here and you're a purist and you're like, what scripture is that? AKA, you're one of the morons who want to make comments on all my Instagram posts about like, oh, that's not in scripture. Yeah, you should really leave now and probably find another place to live. Anyway, I digress. I'm not triggered. It's just a Friday. We're just getting into it. But anyway, I'm gonna tell you how I think about leaders, staff. I think if you aim at like, hey, here's how I would pick staff, and then you fall to volunteer leader, that's a good place to be. So those of you, again, there's purists out there that are like, well, we do it this way or that way. Fine, I don't care. Interpret it yourself. But I'm aiming in the general kind of direction, 20 or 30 degrees wide here, of leaders that I need to be linchpins to help me move an organization forward. Organization, not a church. Churches are organizations. They are also businesses, if you want to go get snarky on that post. But this works for your businesses as well. And this would work for if you want to just have another dad help you coach your kid's soccer team. Like, I think some of these things are transferable in that way. So this is how I think through getting leaders, finding leaders. This is why I have never, ever in my life been short on leaders to accomplish what I'm asked to do or paid to do. Well, Swebb, that's really easy to say when you're at Elevation Church and you have that famous pastor. Of course it's easy. Nope, it's actually the opposite. It's actually a lot harder when you have Kool-Aid drinking fanboys wanting to be best friends with a celebrity preacher on Facebook. That makes it very difficult to find good, actually good leaders. Have extensive experience proving that right there. I have extensive long list of references I can provide to you that will also reinforce what I just told you right there. So please unlearn all of your excuses about, well, if I had this or if I was there or whatever. That is a very limited mindset you're operating in. I also was a wannabe, not a real one, just a wannabe church planner one time at a really big church of about 92 and a half people. And somehow, I'm sure it was just because I won the lottery, was able to talk six crazy wacko people into moving to another state with me. Even though I was not at a celebrity church with a celebrity preacher with millions of dollars. Never in my life, been short on staff or leaders, ever. I was never short on sending people to other cities and states to build campuses for a celebrity preacher. And then I have worked at other churches in between those I just told you right there, as well as consulted for and coached. So you know this. Sorry, screensaver came on, which is wild. Um, so there's just a little context for you, a little snark to kind of start your day. I hope that spices up your coffee a little bit. So this is how I think through that to then get those people. Okay, then like I said, I'm going to give you another kind of progression to think through. So my first list is just some things out of a million that I think through. The next list I'm going to give you in a minute is a progression to work through in order. So if you're taking notes, you might want to consider, okay, there's two different areas on my little iPad right there. So I'm going to go through these. And I just said something right there that's actually pretty important. I do this pretty intuitively. You do a lot of things intuitively too. I'm not smarter than you. I might be smarter than you in this, but you're smarter than me in other things. So don't be reading arrogance in between all this. I'm just telling you, we all are great at different things. For these things, some of this is just really intuitive to me. So if you have a lot of questions, feel free to put them in here, and I'll try to go back and read them in a minute. Save them till the end if you want to be a help to me. But you can also comment on the post if you're going to watch the playback of this. That'd be great. And of course, if you know me, just fire off a memo and I'll help you out. But I do probably process anywhere from 30 to 40 different variables instantaneously when I'm picking a leader. This also applies to when I'm picking clients. Yes, I kind of pick clients. Yes, they call me, but instantaneously I kind of go through the same process. I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty full, dude. So I can say with all integrity that nobody on here, if I had to lie, I have not lied to you. I like you, that those of you who are clients of mine. But there have been plenty of times where even then I'm kind of going through this sort of equation in my head, like, yeah, this thing is not going to work out. So again, this is how I think about it. I'm going to say that over and over and over because I don't need you to be over there like, well, it doesn't work this way, or that's not in the Bible, or some old dude 7 states away at a celebrity church said this. Cool, do that. Why are you on this thing then, right? So just this is the way I think about it. All right, now that I've offended everybody and got us to the right appropriate calibration level, let's jump into it. The first thing I'm looking at when I go find people, and find is relative. Dang it, I probably ought to say that. I don't think leaders are found as much as they're formed. You've heard that before. That's probably a Craig Groeschel alliterated statement. But I do agree generally with that statement. But a lot of you are out there like, we just can't find leaders. So we're in a small town. Oh my gosh, you don't understand. So it's so hard here because we're in a town of only 10,000 people. I've been to a multi-site church of 1,200 in a town of 5,000 people before. So your excuse is terrible, right? They are everywhere. One of the best leaders that I have ever known in my entire life came out of that really big church of 93 people. True story. One of my like absolute, not, I wouldn't say best friends now. We don't talk a ton now, but he is legit one of the top five most people with most integrity, one of the best leaders I've ever known. Definitely one of the best servants that I think exist on the planet. And he came out of that really big, dynamic, famous church of 93 people that doesn't even exist anymore. And so you have all the people you need to do all that God has asked you to do. It's your fault. I'm not trying to be mean. I'm just pointing it out. It is your fault if you can't find staff and leaders. Yes, even the worship leader. Well, there's not a lot of musicians in this town. Nope, false. They are everywhere. They may play banjo in your town and have no teeth, but they are everywhere. Well, so if you don't understand, we don't have any old people, young people, rich people, black people. We don't have any of those people anywhere. False, false. You're lying to yourself. So they are everywhere. You have all the people and resources and money, by the way, to do all that you need to do, all that God has asked you to do. And so this is how I think through finding leaders, or really just grabbing them and saying, get to work, let's go conquer hell, let's go do crazy things, and maybe we have a little fun on the side. So that's kind of how I go about doing it. They are already there. I grab them. So should I retitle this? This is how I think about finding leaders, picking leaders, or this is how I think about just dragging leaders out into the open. Maybe that's a better title for it. You can put in the chat. Remember back in the 2020 online church days when everybody was doing online church? Excuse me, everybody was attempting online church, but only 4 of us were doing it correctly. And it was always a put in the chat. Freddie used to say that all the time. I even got a shirt made that said put in the chat. Because, oh man, it just got a little too much for me. But anyway, feel free to put it in the chat. My new title to this talk. All right, anyway, here you go. Sorry, let's go. I'll slow down now. Scene. First thing I think about, this is deep, pivotal, revolutionary. Do I like them? Do I like them? Do I like them? That's the first thing I care about, is do I like them? I'm going to take a sip because some of you are waiting for the punchline. Do you agree with what I just said? Put it in the chat. Do I like them? And if you hate the people you work with, it's going to be very difficult to be successful at whatever mission it is. Banking, insurance, mowing the yard, bro. If you hate them, it will be hard. I look for people that I like. I look for people that I like. If people are stupid, God loves them. I don't have to. It's going to be very difficult to do the mission. Do I like them? And thank you for chiming in. But again, ask yourself, do I really do that? Or am I disagreeing with Swebb right here? Because a lot of you hire people and pick people, especially hire people because they have a good heart. Well, they ain't likable. Not at all. You're hiring people because you were told to. But do I like them? Can I see myself working with them? Well, Swebb, I'm just supposed to hire them, but it's really for somebody else. Well, then I don't care who you hire them. I don't even care if they speak English. Knock yourself out in that case. But I'm still be careful putting somebody on the team that I don't like. I really just think that's true. And let me go a step further. I know this will offend some of you. I need them to be remotely attractive. I didn't say hot, sexy, and all that stuff. I didn't say that. I just need them to be remotely attractive, meaning put together well. Did they brush their teeth? Can they shave and get rid of the scruff? This is still shaven compared to what I'm talking about, by the way. Like, are they remotely attractive to where when they walk into the room, people will go, wow, whoa, what the heck just walked into the room? And yes, a lot of you guys have staff that make people get all hives and itchy when they walk in because their face says, I hate you. We know that you hate them, and they probably smell a little funny. And I'm not even trying to make jokes. I haven't even gotten into joke mode yet. I'm telling you that's literally a problem. But you hired somebody because she was so faithful, or he went to a Christian college, or he quoted Chris Hodges upside down, drinking a non-alcoholic Zima one day. There's always some weird equation you have to come up with to talk yourself into hiring a complete loser for your team. Again, God loves them. There's a place for them at some other church. There's a place for them as a volunteer on your team. But you're jumping way, way, way ahead too fast because at the end of the day, you didn't go with what the easy, shallow stuff is, which is like, man, do I like them? Do they present even halfway well? I could stop right there and that would solve, and I'm not even exaggerating, I could solve probably 50% of staffing problems if we just did that right there. 50%. I'm telling you. And let me just jump into some swagger mode right here. I get paid a decent amount of money to have a substantially successful resume of proving all this. You know that I'm right on the attractive and the likable stuff, the likable part. So stop hiring faithful people, good-hearted people. The pastor said they're really nice people. One time he had a viral video 700 years ago, people. Stop hiring and picking those people. They are not good for your team because other people are going to come in. So let me just keep going down this attractive thing that's offended half of you. You know them. and they love Jesus, and you love Jesus, and all the people love Jesus, and all God's children clap and say amen and say, put in the chat, touch your neighbor. Awesome. But generally speaking, unless you're a Pentecostal who likes to reach people who already agree with you, generally speaking, you're probably an attractional minded church, meaning I'm trying to reach new people. And those people are shallow. Those people actually care that their spouse looks good, generally. They care that the greeter probably brushed their teeth. They care that they don't have an RBF. They care about that kind of stuff. And so you can come at me. I know you won't because we're all friends. You're only here because you know what you're dealing with. But I'm saying those people out there who want to comment on my Instagram, they can come at this and be all higher than whatever and try to be holy. That's fine. But those churches are always 7 people, always, because they haven't thought about what it takes to reach regular people. So, all right, there's my soapbox. I'm going to step down off of that, move on. Let me grab some tea real quick. But do I like them? By the way, throughout this, my best if I can name drop a few more people. A lot of these people you already know. These are people that I've picked. These are people that I picked and fought for and hired. A lot of these are going to come from Elevation because, frankly, at the 93-person church, it didn't have a lot of money to hire people. But I will drop other names throughout the thing. But these are people that I picked to be staff, to be leaders, to put on my team or whatever. You can go Google these people. You can go find them. You can go ask them. You can see if I'm making up crap. Some of them might actually tell you I am making up crap, but I'd love to know who that is. But they were all likable to me. So let's see. Dustin Stradley, everybody on here probably knows who it is. If you don't, I don't know why you're on here. All of you need to call him. Greg Basch is a good example. Matter of fact, Greg Basch is a funny example. I've told this story before. Let's just sprinkle in some stories. I've got another, 45 minutes here, whatever it is. Greg Basch, I put this on Instagram in a comment a couple weeks ago. Somebody was asking. Greg Basch is a relatively well-known like linchpin leader. If you follow me and other people kind of associated with Elevation in some way, and like GOAT level leader. So legitimately, he like actually is. You know, he pisses me off a lot of times, but he is GOAT level leader. So you can tell him I said that. He's not a thing. And so he we were doing an event at a location that I had picked him for, and I was told he's not the guy. I was told that a bunch of times, and I was like, "Cool, thanks." And I nod, and you just fake like you're going to do something like, "Okay, I'll get it changed." Like, "Oh yeah, I'll write that down." That's a stupid idea. I'm not actually doing it. I'm just writing this down to make you feel better about yourself. Okay, and then I would do it, and then and so we had this big event. He was on stage, or he was going to be on stage, and I was literally told a few hours before that event, he's not the guy. We talked about it. He's just missing. And he literally listed some stuff he's missing. We talked about it as a team. All the executives, the famous people you're talking about, they didn't like Greg. Greg's an idiot. And so I was like, neat. And so then he goes on stage and he slays. And now we don't hire people because they're great on stage, although that's a massive component, not on my list, but that's a separate conversation if you're looking at campus pastors, worship leaders, or whatever. And so that very night, just a few hours later in another city, everybody's like, "Oh my gosh, that's the best leader I've ever seen." And there's like, "Oh, he's so amazing. Give me his number. I want to go out with that guy. It's awesome." That's the legit type of response. I know there's a little embellished there, but that's the type of response people had about Greg. And then of course, ever since then, and again, if you know, you know, that's exactly how people think about Greg all the time. But he was not just not good enough; he was unwanted 2 hours before he became everybody's favorite pick. So, but I liked him. And he presents well. He has a really great vocabulary. So he even sounds good. See, I don't even do that. Dude, I'm really good at written content, and not because I'm trying to be like super cocky about it. I just know that this is a face for radio and a voice for email. And so I'm really good about writing. But he has a vocabulary that's very intelligent. So that's a true story about Greg. Dustin, Taylor Shytle. If you know Taylor Shytle, I mentioned him at the very top of this video. Taylor was unliked by all of the experts for a long time. Taylor knows this. This is not news to any of these people. None of these people are offended. All of them now have this massive welded chip on the shoulder. I told you so. Who's still standing? Who's slaying the game right now? Who does everybody wish they were right now? Now, all of them are more humble than me. Of course, I'm the only douchebag. But generally, other people, though, is what I'm saying. They're the. Did I say? I didn't mean to say d-bag. You know, that's not right, and it's accurate or whatever. Anyway, so they have this chip on their shoulder. But they're all super great people who now know, and they have produced, because that's what you really want. Let's go back to the beginning. You want people who produce. That's what you want, right? So I liked them, and they were attractive. They were able to present well themselves. You know, I started there. I didn't really go into like, well, Taylor has an accent. That was literally a problem with Taylor. Taylor has an accent. We don't really like Greg because he's not super charismatic. Well, have you met Swebb? You're talking to me right now. Am I charismatic? What? So it's a really that, well, hey, Jordan, D-bag is in scripture. I think Paul talks about it. No, Jesus said it when he's like, what did you go out into the desert to see? And then he says it right after that. It just depends on your translation. You probably have one of those loser translations, like, NIV or something, but it's in the Bible. All right, let's keep going. You get me distracted. Number 3, do I like them? Do they present well? Number 3, do they already have a following? Do they already have a following? Do they already have a following? Remember, you wanted leaders. Remember, this whole talk is you wanted leaders. Um, um, do they already have a following? Now, it's 2026. It's a very easy way to do this. I can just look at Instagram. I don't care if they're on Facebook. I don't care if they're still on MySpace. Do people listen to what they say enough to at least click the follow button? Now, granted, if they're in your church already, I can just turn around and see, do people follow them anywhere? When they start their huddle, are people in the huddle? Or are they doing the whole thing like, well, let's just wait and see if anybody else comes in? That person has this much influence with their team when their huddle starts late because nobody's in the room. I have to deal with this on a very regular basis, by the way. That just means they don't have a following. They're nice people. They have a name tag with authority. They have a paycheck with authority, but they do not have influence with regular people. And that's a big thing to see. I don't care that they went to a Christian university. I actually never care about that. In some cases, that works against you. I never care about that. I don't care that he plays guitar really, 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 really well. I don't care that he wrote songs with some obscure person in some other state at some other church that nobody really cares about. I don't care about all those really cool things if no one is following them. Well, I'm not really a social media guy. I didn't say that. There are plenty of other people or plenty of other ways you can find if they have a following. And by the way, they are a social media person. They are. They really are. Go watch. They post a lot of stuff. People just don't care about it. And it's not because they don't work it. You can also go find a lot of people with 1 million followers who have 0 posts. You follow some of these people. You do. So I just want to check as best I can, just anecdotally, do they already have a following? AKA, can they lead people? Leadership is moving people. So can they move people? I don't care where. I don't even care if they're Christian. Can they move people? Because that's what you need people to do, right? Am I wrong? I mean, is this what you want people to do? You want to know about finding staff and picking leaders. This is how. Mhm, mhm, mhm. 1, 2, 3, I'm on number 4-ish, maybe. Are they biased towards action? I wanna know if they're just gonna, like, lean into the action. Are they gonna move towards the thing, whatever it is? Um, gifts and gifts and talents mean nothing. Almost. Almost. They do mean something eventually, but they almost mean nothing. I'm not doing spiritual gifts assessment. By the way, spiritual gifts assessment will not fall on this list right here. But I love that opportunity to explore those things. I actually used to teach a class on the 26 explained gifts that are in the Bible, as well as probably the billion others that exist probably. But so I am a fan of that, but nope, those won't hit the list either here. But are they biased towards action? I want to know if they are biased towards action. That just means, are they running to the fire? That's how we should say it. That was a cultural sort of language piece we use at Elevation by the day is, did they run to the fire? So when something starts to happen, do they just start texting, or do they physically get up, move their posture and say, I'm on it? I want them to know that they're biased towards action. You can see this in other ways too. I told this story many, 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 many times. This is something I still evaluate. I evaluated this in Fresno just a couple weeks ago. Is, you know how almost every church these days has little mints in their bathrooms? Probably you do too. Probably not because you came up with it, but probably because you copied it from somewhere, which I'm not mad about. But it just goes to show we copy a lot of stuff, don't we, without actually thinking where it comes from. Anyway, so we all have these little mints in our bathroom, cellophane wrappers. Remember cellophane? The joke is that they stick to everything else except the trash can. So you can find cellophane wrappers all over the floors of every one of your churches if you have this. It's a true story. And by the way, those of you who sell, or not sell, although sell, or give away coffee, same exact process. I can walk through your lobby and see little drops of coffee, because it comes off that little lip right here. And if you have a lid, but you have black coffee is so thin that it goes between the lid and the cup. Am I thinking a little bit too detailed for you right now? But that's the level of execution I feel like the gospel deserves. And we ought to be thinking a little bit more analytical, a little bit more intense. So that's how I know that the coffee spills. I've experienced this on a pretty regular basis. And so I sometimes put cream in my coffee simply so it doesn't leak out the cup. This is a true story. So all that to say, I can walk through your lobby and see little spots of coffee all around. So when I have cellophane wrappers and coffee drops all over your lobby that you can clean, and it's not, I just watch and see who walks over those things. And the person that picks up trash that's not theirs, I'm gonna make a note of that guy. Oh, he didn't even go to our church. He's gonna be on my team tomorrow. I can guarantee you that. So, Pastor so and so didn't like him. I don't care. I'm the boss of my team. He's coming on my team. So I will find people biased towards action. You love these people. You love these people. You just haven't trained your mind to see these people, probably because they don't have a college degree from some obscure Christian university where they sing songs really, really, really long time. Whatever the number is I'm on now, are they flexible? Are they flexible? Are you still with me? It got really quiet over there. Y'all all got mad that I said the phrase D-bag. And I'm sorry about that. I do apologize. I'll move on. Are they flexible? Are they flexible? I don't mean bendy, as Phoebe Buffay would say. I mean flexible. And you can see this pretty quick. Usually you have to ask them something in order to see if they're flexible. Um, um, it's like, hey, I know I told you to do this. Can we do this? Hey, I know we're supposed to meet at 12. Can you give me 12:15? I do this on a pretty regular basis. Those of you who uh, 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 those of you who we do regular calls like Sean or whoever, I've texted most of you probably and I've said something along the lines of, hey, I'm actually available now. We can still keep our original call time, our appointment at 12 or whatever, but I'm available now if you really want to meet. And it's not a deal breaker if they can't move it, but I am definitely taking notes on who can move. Now, this is not, again, it's not a deal breaker. Some people are very busy. Some people have very rigid schedules. That's just how their mind works. I'm not mad at that. I'm really not. I like administration. You should see my calendar. I'm pretty organized, more so than a lot of people like to think. I'm very organized, but I'm also flexible because organization and flexing are not opposites of each other. They actually help each other. And so I actually pay attention is, hey, I'm available earlier. And if they can move, I mean, that sends them up a notch for me because it says that they're in control. It says that they don't freak out. It says on so many different levels that they're just not uptight. Uptight is a vibe that just screams. It comes out of their mouth, it comes out of their face, comes out of their posture when they're just uptight. And I always want to know, are they flexible? Can they come over? So like when they're on your team, so these are people like at your church. Now let's say you want to hire a staff member out of your church, because that's where 99.9% of your staff members need to come from, is within your church. Well, Swebb, Vanderblumen says, I don't care. I don't even care. Yes, I know who that is. I don't even care. I definitely don't care that I'm going to have to pay him like $40,000 fee for it. Definitely don't care. Why don't you send me $400 and I'll solve your problem? So, oh gosh, I just can't believe what we do to find staff members. Anyway, but they're in your church right now. And so with those people, start asking them things just to prove flexibility. Again, not to test them in the kind of mean way, but but again, you're evaluating. So don't wait for an interview and tell me about a time you were flexible. The answer to that's always going to be a lie all the time because everybody's in interview mode, which is made up mode. So instead, just interview them from afar by saying things like, hey man, sorry, I know we're supposed to have lunch today. Can you move it up or can you move it back to tomorrow? Hey, I know we're supposed to do a meeting at 3, but how about let's just run to lunch real quick and just see if they can do it. And then I'm paying real close attention to their ability to flex, how fast they can make a decision. I don't know. I have to pray about it. Or this one right here. Got to check with my wife. Got to check with my wife. Now, granted, my wife is the best wife in the history of the universe, so I understand I have a leg up on this. But another thing that we do, if I wasn't married to the best person ever, is that we have shared calendars and we just have built rules. If it's not on the calendar, then I guess I ain't doing it. Meaning, I don't have to check with my wife. I just go there and I'm like, yep, I'll be there. I even book trips without asking her permission. Some of you just lost your mind right there. I'm going to travel for 3 days without even asking her opinion because if it's not on the calendar, then and then she also is administrative enough and we just now use a tool. Yes, we speak to each other as well. We do speak to each other, but you can set up systems that way. And then here's a big underlying thing. You could just trust each other, staff, team, spouses, kids, whatever, trust each other. And that'll solve a lot of your planning problems as well. So if I'm talking to somebody and they got to pray about it, anything, would you come on staff? Let me pray about it. Bro, you're a Christian. You're 35 years old. You am the answer that you were supposed to be praying about the last 10 years. And now you got to pray about it. You're out. Like seriously. And some of you want to argue theology on that one. I would love to argue theology on that whole statement right there, but you know what I'm talking about. And so I'm out on that one. I'm probably not going to put that person on staff anytime soon. And if I do, I'm going to pay them a nickel for a full-time job because y'all know I'm part-time staff members. I still don't know why you're doing it. I don't know why you decided to run your church into the ground that way. Excuse me, not your church, your momentum into the ground that way. Church is probably fine. But you're going to run your momentum into the ground that way. Side note, another conversation. But are they flexible? So ask them to move stuff and just see what happens. 10 minutes, 15 minutes, that's all you got to do. Here's another way you can do this. Can you text them on Saturday night and they text you back? Or do they have a digital sunset? I used to work for one of the dumbest lead pastors in the world. I'm not mentioning his name. It is not Stephen Furtick. He's still on my top, near the top of my list on senior pastors, lead pastors. But another guy, when I say work, I mean like contractor for a minute. But their church had with this communist idea, the Mamdani idea called a digital sunset. Sun goes down, it gets dark, right? That's a sunset. At 5 o'clock every day, you were not allowed. It was not frowned upon. It was outlawed that you could text or talk to anybody about ministry until the next day at 8:30. True story. I don't know why that church like derailed. I have no idea why that whole thing blew up. I don't know why that didn't pan out. It's wild to me. But that is a real thing. And I know that there are full networks and denominations that operate with the same general mindset. And they'll call them boundaries. I just think you're losers when you can't handle your own boundaries and they have to be prescribed to you from somebody else, like some book about maybe eliminating hurry or any of those kind of things. Like settle down. If you're not flexible, you can go anywhere. God loves you. You will probably be in heaven. Possibly, maybe. I don't know. I don't know if you're still using green phone numbers. It's weird, Will. But at some point you could get there, but you're definitely not working on my team because I can't text you on Saturday night without you saying it's my soul care day. It's my Sabbath day. Man, you are doom scrolling a whole lot on your soul care day. Yeah. I am on my Sabbath. Really? I mean, I watched all of your Instagram feed yesterday. I mean, that was a busy Sabbath that you couldn't respond to the text message. And I'm hitting on something right here because this is exactly what I see so many pastors and staff do. So many pastors and staff do. All right. Screensaver came on again. It's weird. I don't know what happens. Sometimes it happens in 1 minute. Sometimes it happens in 45. All right. Are you still with me? Have I offended anybody yet? Hey, if you're offended, just write that in the chat. That'd be really helpful. All right. Here's another one. Are they flexible? Do they have an elite level of skill that we need? Elite. Underline elite. Actually put in all caps. Elite. Some of you don't even know how to spell that because you don't use that word a lot. You've used love, care, God loves them. They have a calling on their life. They're anointed, which I think is true about 1% of the time we use that word. But are they elite? Navy SEAL, NFL, Hall of Fame, GOAT, like those words, elite. My friend who says this in a British accent, he's only said this the first time. He said, just because they're available doesn't mean they're suitable. So that's a really nice British way of saying what I'm trying to say is, are they elite? Do they have an elite level skill that we need on the team? I don't need somebody to play guitar. I can find any college freshman to do that. I need them to play guitar well. I don't need them to sing. Oh, dear Lord, we definitely don't need somebody to sing. To make a joyful noise thing, it's not an excuse to put losers on the stage. It just means that the rocks will cry out. So why don't you get up and make a quiet, joyful noise in your own driveway on your prayer walk in the morning? That counts. But that is not a formula for worship leading. Okay. So, but I need them to be good at it, in tune. If you're going to stand on stage, I need you to not be obese. That's not on my list, but are you elite? Are you elite in all things? In all things, or at least striving to be elite? I don't need you to have a six pack. I don't need you to be built like a gymnast. I'm just saying, are you elite? Are you at least moving towards elite? And so, do they have an elite level of skill that we need? So again, singing, leading, can they tell jokes? Do they make everybody just feel better about themselves? Are they brilliant communicators? Dustin Stradley is a brilliant communicator. Basch is a brilliant systems engineer when it comes to leadership, development, and all that kind of stuff. Taylor Shytle actually has an elite level skill of making organic, authentic connections with people that last forever. So he's really good at that sort of thing. Now, there's other things that those guys and myself are bad at, just like you are. That's fine. But what skills do we need to have covered? And do they have one of those? Now, that is not the first thing we need. No, that's a little further down the list. Also, remember, if you go back, it's a good time to remind you. I'm going through a few of the things that my brain instantaneously puts together. So this is not the first thing. Some of you start at the first thing. You're like, wow, they were worship leader at SEU. Like, don't care. Nobody likes them. So it's later down the list. I'm going to harp on that. Let's keep moving. Are they teachable? Are they teachable? Are they teachable? That is something you can prove. Tell me about a time that you were teachable. That's an interview question. That's you're fishing for lies when you ask those kind of stuff. We should probably do another call on how to do interviews. That'd be a fun one. Are they teachable? This can be proven. The fastest way to know if somebody's teachable is simply just to work the equation in your head. How much listening did they do versus talking? That's the fastest way to figure it out. And you can figure it out at the intro. Hey, what's up? Good to see you. Oh man, it's crazy. So I was just talking to my wife and we did this thing and my kid, here, look at my kid. My kid's so cute, so amazing. Look what he just did yesterday. Cool. Nice guy, likable, presents well, but hold on a second, bro. You just like word vomited everywhere and it's not really your live call. You know? And there's people like that on social media. You see the people that get on your comment section and want to debate everything. Like, bro, it's a comment. Comments are like for I don't agree. I do agree. That's awesome. That's funny. Disagree. Unfollow. Cool. That's great. But those of you that want to argue in comment section, I already know that person's not teachable. I'm not even interested at all. So there's that. Last one for now. Last one for now is, and this is a really fun one. This one is actually in an online course I put together. You need to watch this. You need to get this. It's probably super duper expensive though. My courses are like wildly outrageously priced. So, but you can go to swebb.fyi to see it. And that one's called Choose Better People. And I made this risk assessment. Um, this is old too, by the way. It's a couple years old. It's evergreen for sure, but it's 2 years old. But I know I have a lot of new people, followers and stuff, so you may not have heard about this. So it's a risk assessment, meaning you can hire whoever you want. I just want you to be aware of the risk of the person when you bring him on. Some people are no risk. Some people are like, dude, that's an automatic gangster right there. Take him out. Some people are like, that dude's an idiot, but I'm okay with it. I'll take the risk. Great. And you can do that. That's how I hire people as well, by the way. I'm like, no, I know he's got a lot of misses, but I can do something with that because part of leadership, or excuse me, part of evaluation of a staff member is who's going to be their leader. It's a two-part thing. So if you're the kind of leader that just picks people and goes, "Oh, that guy's a loser," that's because you're a bad leader. So the reason I was able to pick Dustin or Greg or Jonathan Josephs, a lot of people miss on that one, by the way, or other guys that were at the organization. I would say Philip, he wasn't likable. Nobody liked Philip. If you know what I'm talking about, you know. Dom, are you kidding me? Nobody liked Dom. So that's a good example. There's another guy who's north of the border named Stephen Finch. Y'all can look him up. No one on the lead team or staff wanted that guy. And now everybody's glad he's on the team as well as his tithe dollars. If you know, you know. But they didn't check a lot of boxes. But a piece of the evaluation of a person is who is leading and leveraging the connections and the gifts and the skill sets and whatever, the toolbox, if you will, of that person. So that's a separate talk, probably a separate video I should be doing. But that's why I made a risk assessment and a whole course around that. It's real, again, outrageously priced. It's probably somewhere in the $80 range or something ridiculous. Don't get it, but you should look into it. It's called Choose Better People. But on that assessment, here's one of the questions on there I wrote is, do I want 10 of those people? Remember, do I like them? Are they attractive? Do they present well? Those kind of things. Do they have a following already? Are they biased towards action? Are they flexible? Do they have an elite level of skill in some way that we need? Some skill that we need. Not all skills they have are needed, by the way. Are they teachable? Huge one, of course. And then, do I want 10 of those person? Do I want 10 of that person? Have you ever asked that before? Have you thought of that before? Is that a weird question? Do I want 10 of that person? Not like, well, all right, it's fine. Now, here's the deal. If you say no, that's not a problem. So go back to my risk assessment thing I was just telling you about. I'm helping you assess risk. I am risky. I'm gonna tell you right now, you do not want 10 of me on your team. I'm gonna burn the place down. I'm gonna rebuild it phenomenally, but it's gonna be built towards my preferences, right? And all of you know this, and I'm not even offended by that. It's fine. I know my lane. You have your lane. This is what I do. You do this. So the answer doesn't have to be yes all the time. I just want you to think about it. And if you don't want 10 of that person, why? Okay. Do you want 10 of that person? Just at least start with the question, do I want 10? No, I don't. Okay. That means that person's probably just a little more risky. That person's probably a maverick. I've been called that a few times. I now wear that badge of honor. It's a element of pride for me. You know, they make movies about Maverick. They don't make movies about bureaucrats who get mad at Maverick. There's a whole movie about that called Maverick. So, and you know this, all the best movies are about Mavericks. All the best movies are Jason Bourne's. All the best movies are that way. And there's a reason for that because those are the people who break sound barriers and make the world go around. I'm not trying to say I bring sound barriers. You're a Maverick as well in your own right. I'm not saying you're not. We're all unique in this way. I just tend to be the one in the church world more so than some other people. But so I'm just saying out loud what you all know and you all want to you all think, which is like, I don't even know if I want 10 Swebbs. I know that. That's fine. Ask the question though, so you can now appropriately evaluate the level of risk you're willing to take on. I do not want 10 Dustin Stradleys. I don't want 10 Greg Bosches. I don't want 10 Jonathan Josephs at all. But it's just good to know. It's just good to know where we are. So that's one of the questions on the assessment. Highly recommend getting that course if you want. You do want, but you should definitely do that. Choose Better People. If you go to swebb.fyi/choose better people, it's probably some dashes in there. But if you go to swebb.fyi, scroll down just a scotch, you'll probably see them listed right there. So there you go. Are you still with me? Where are we at? 12:10. This goes till what? 12:30 officially? Has anybody cried yet today? Has anybody cussed at me yet? Has anybody told your pastor that we shouldn't hire this guy? Just making sure you're still here. Hmm. All right. All right. All right. Kevin, you're such a bad liar, bro. Product placement. Goggy. Yep. Tell me I didn't just pull this mug out of the cabinet with you in mind when I got this thing. Is he going to stay stupid again? Have I said it today or just on that voice memo yesterday? I don't think. Have I said it today? I said idiot today. That's one of my favorite words. Yeah. Hey, by the way, this is a good time for a little sort of like one of those commercial breaks. You know, like when you listen to all those pharmaceutical companies and they give you all this like disclaimers about, hey, this could cause grundle itchiness or something, right? So here's your Swebb version of grundle itchiness. The slurps, you like that? Um, I know this sounds really funny. I'm perfectly aware of how I speak to whom I speak. I don't know if that's good grammar though, but I'm perfectly aware of that. Um, you got to know that 99% of the time I'm talking to professional Christians who already attempt to think like I think, and we're all kind of generally on the same page. But then, and Gagi is probably one of the latest, most recent examples of somebody who could probably back this up. Um, but when I'm talking to lost people, regular people, some of your church members, if you invite me to talk to like your team or even preach on your stage, which again, wildly enough is actually a thing, I know how to speak a lot slower. I don't say the things like idiots. I am actually relatively nice and approachable because I am perfectly aware of what audience you're talking to. I'm not saying that you don't. I would just challenge you to at least consider that. Some of you think that when you're talking to employees, you have to bend over for them like they're people who are lost and going to hell. And that's why you have loser employees. This is why you say things like, "Well, I can't fire that complete moron because we're a church." You don't understand who you're talking to. Employment and grace are not even the same, remotely close to the same conversation. Grace is a salvation conversation. Employment, whole different conversations, unrelated, completely unrelated to grace. Margin, operational margin to maybe learn the job a little bit better, that's fine, but I wouldn't be throwing around the word grace. Okay. Grace is not the right word, but a lot of you think in those terms is what I'm saying. So, and I know that you don't need to know that, but some of you don't know me. And just know that when I'm talking to regular people, which is not my life or my job, then I'm talking very differently. And it's not a hypocritical thing. I'm awareness of who I'm talking to. So some of you can argue that if you like, but it'd be really helpful if you knew who you were talking to so you could change the tone. You can also see this when you talk to football coaches and they see press conferences and stuff like that. Watch how they're yelling on the screen. Watch how they're yelling on the field, and then watch how they're talking to the kids. Now, again, some of them don't do really well about compartmentalizing. I understand that, but you understand what I'm saying. And so that would just be helpful to know. I tend to be the guy that's abrasive over here, and y'all are like, "Holy crap, I could never invite that guy to my church." But I'm on the other side going like, y'all are so nice and lovey and huggy and touchy, and I'm like, "Oh, no wonder he can't mobilize his team to do anything. No wonder he's 10 years in still running 250 people. He's not a leader, but he's a really nice hugger." And there's a really great place for that. 100%, totally great place for that. But you're gonna have to push people in some way. It's funny that how really quickly and conveniently we forget that Jesus interrupted church services to talk to the lead pastor in the room. It's really funny that we forget he turned over the tables twice, premeditated, as in he went around the corner, made a whip, and was like, "Well, I'm going to have to go do something on this," and he pulls the belt out. You know what I'm saying? Puts it in. We forget that, and then we like to give a lot of grace conversations. So I don't feel attacked anyway. I'm attacking myself in this case. But it's just a little commercial break for you to think through how you communicate in both directions there. So I'm aware of that. All right, let's move on to the next thing. I'll finish with this if you're still there. 16 minutes left. Also, this is why you have to be live to get the good stuff because only the paid people get to play back on this stuff. All right. This is a sort of a phased progression I work through when I'm now, we can say employing or installing a leader. Because when we say the word leader at a church, it means 100 things. Literally, you go through the list of all the things that it means. Think about the word lead pastor, for example. Pastor means CEO, counselor, dad. It means all these things when we talk about lead pastor. And then we're mad at them when they're not good at one of those things, or when they are good at one of those things that's not pastoral, which just tells me you have no idea at all, zero understanding of what a pastor actually is in the traditional sense and in the modern day sense. Anybody who says you're not very pastoral, I'm out on you. I'm so out on you. Matter of fact, that's another thing that's going on the list. I'm not ever hiring that guy if he ever says the word. So anyway, instead what I've done is said, hey, I have this leader person, and before I install them, aka give them a title, let me work through a progression. Okay. So, and I've given this to some of you over the last couple of months. And so I'll continue to kind of tweak it, maybe put it in like a course form or something, but this will help you. I really think this will help you. And this is why, again, looking in reverse, this is why you might have a person on your team and you're like, why is that person so dumb in this area? Like, what is wrong here? And it's probably because you went from, hey, that's a good guy, to here's your paycheck. You jumped over this progression. For me, it's 6 things. Okay. And they go in order. I can't stress this enough. They go in order. So when I'm having a leader and I'm like, okay, this guy's great. Here's Dustin Stradley, probably the premier church communication coach. I'm dead serious. I'm putting him with Paul Scanlon. I love the way that Dustin Stradley teaches people how to communicate. Can I mute this just real quick? I don't know if that really muted or if you heard me yell at my kids, but I need them to be quiet. So they kind of get going right to the point. I'm like, I'm going to throw something on the stairs. Anyway, so this is the progression I have to work through. So, even with Dustin or Greg, or again, you have some linchpin in your mind, somebody so amazing. Think like some who's at the top of the food chain and the best leader you've ever known in your entire life, like Jordan Deese, hypothetically. Let's say that's the guy. Everybody needs to know Jordan Deese. He's on here. He was on here. He's probably not now because I think he's lying, telling me he's listening to this because he's up here and I'm down here. Peon, Jesus, it's like that kind of. It's like Jesus, Jordan, and Moses is kind of how it works. Anyway, so you think through a guy like that, like how do you install that person? No, I'm going through this. This is a layer I'm going through. Number one, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to give them a task. I'm going to give them a task. I'm going to give them a task. Take up the trash. Hey, bro, good to see you, man. Welcome to your first day on the job. If you really want to say that, please don't hire them too fast. But let's say you did that because you probably did that wrong. I'm going to quickly give them a task. Now, a task is not, hey, guys, now mow the yard now. No. Just, hey, real quick, we run over and grab that door real quick for that person. Yeah, I could do it, but I'm giving them a task. I will always start with giving people tasks. Always. You have to do this. You have to do this. Give them a task, a to-do. Make it menial. Changing the toilet paper in the room. I use that example all the time. Hey, will you run in the bathroom real quick? I heard that toilet. We change toilet paper. Just do that. Now, 90% of your bad hires get solved right here because I'm watching their posture. I'm listening to their language, and then go, what? I don't really know how. The first thing you said was an excuse. The first thing you said, not like yes, sir. And how do you do that? You started with I don't know how. That's not my job. I think somebody else just did it. Remember, I said bias towards action earlier. So if I ask you to go change the toilet paper, and the first thing you do is make an excuse, that's baffling to me. So there's the task. If they continue to do tasks well, then they earn influence. Number two is influence. Do a task and they do it well, then they I'm gonna come back to some of these questions if you have questions, Cliff. I can't read that right now, but it looks like you got something. So task, and then if they do tasks well over time, a time could be a minute, time could be a year. But you do tasks over time, they're gonna earn influence with me, probably with people around them. So if somebody goes and changes the toilet paper, even though it's not their job, or it's in the women's bathroom, oh my gosh, whatever, and they're like, yeah, sure, I'll grab it, I'll handle it, whatever. Then they earn influence me. I'm like, dude, I can trust that guy. And the other people very, very, very quickly, other people super quickly start to see, and they just assume, I think the guy's a boss or something because he keeps doing a lot. He's very active and gets stuff done. So I can discern very quickly who has influence. You see what I'm saying? Are you with me so far? I know this is a little hard to some people. No offense. I just mean like it's a different way of thinking through it. When you're thinking all you just do is an interview and a gifts assessment and a background check and hire them. It's like, no wonder they're terrible. So task, influence. The third one is responsibility. After they've gained influence, then I will then give them responsibility. Those are not the same thing. Too many people are giving responsibility too quickly and they haven't proven they can even change the toilet paper. Okay. They can't pick up the mint wrappers. They don't know how to lock the door. Think about all the staff members who just leave church buildings and leave the place wide open, don't set the security system. That happened at Elevation all the time. But again, not from people I picked, but at 350 staff members at some point, I guess it happens. And then that happened at church down the street here in Austin I used, or that I worked at for about a minute. And so, but we're given responsibility really quickly. Here's a key fob. Here's a code to the alarm system. We don't actually know if you can tie your shoes, but here's your responsibility. Man, you need to settle down on that. By the way, I'm walking you through a progression that you used with your kids. This is exactly what you intuitively, natively did with your kids. This is exactly what you did. And you didn't even know it. Is you started giving your kids tasks and you start to say, man, my kid can get up on his own. That's crazy. He flushed the toilet. But you probably didn't give him responsibility without improving the task and gaining influence. And so now we're at responsibility. So I'm going to give them responsibility. Now, responsibility is weight. Give them something that that weighs a lot. So the task is to change the toilet paper. The responsibility grows into, hey, man, I'm just going to give you responsibility just to make sure those bathrooms are ready to go every Sunday morning. That's responsibility. Meaning I'm not going to go tell you which toilet and the doors, please wipe the counters, redo the things, figure out how to put the toilet, paper towels in the deal. I'm not going to do all that. I started with the task of changing the toilet paper because I heard there's something to be fixed. I'm giving responsibility, weight, something substantial that says, hey, I'm trusting. It's off my plate. It's on your plate now. Some of you, a lot of you, all of you need to take more stuff off your plate. That is an example of responsibility. But they have to earn that with the task, influence, responsibility. The fourth thing is authority. After they have been given responsibility, hopefully they have taken responsibility. Now I'm going to stamp it with authority. Be like, you know what? That guy is the pastor of bathrooms now. If he wants to paint it green, if he wants to paint it pink, if he wants to have one of those little guys in there that hands you the paper towels the whole time, awesome, love it. It's his authority. That is his domain. No longer is it not even on my plate. I don't even care about it. I mean, I expect to go in there and it's the Ritz-Carlton now because that guy has moved through task, influence, responsibility, and I've now stamped him with authority. This is where most of you start, though. Most of you start with, wow, what a neat guy. He played at SEU. He went to Liberty. Wow. And so all of a sudden, boom, he now has authority. And this is why you hate your worship leaders. This is why you hate your youth pastors. This is why that executive pastor that Vanderbloemen found you for $60,000 leaves you in a year because y'all were at each other the whole time because you started with authority and he had no influence with anybody, including yourself. And you should have listened to your wife the first time when she said, "Hey, bro, that guy's an idiot." Yeah, but the rich guy over there told me. I like William himself, by the way. I'm just saying the idea of like, let's just outsource all that. You're missing a lot of stuff. So listen to your wife in this case, or the other people that are very clearly pointing out, hey, this is not right because you jumped all the way to authority. Okay. The fifth thing I'm going to do is I'm going to give them a title. Then, and only then, do they get a title. I know this is breaking your brain right now. You're right now thinking, okay, Swebb, we have an open role for a worship leader. And so I'm going to put on Instagram, I'm hiring a worship leader. And again, they're going to be good. They're going to wear a hoodie in the summertime. They're going to quote Chris Brown and Carrie Job and all those people all the time. They're going to just have nothing but, and they're going to follow all the same cliche, mix accounts and engineering accounts and all that stuff. And you're going to think, boom, authority, title, worship leader. And you're like, well, how do I advertise that I need them if I don't give them a title? Well, I've just talked about this for the last 45 minutes. This is how you do it. This is literally how you do it. This is why, let me repeat. I have never one time been short on staff ever at any church. I have never one time in my life come at me. Let's see if you need references, if you need proof. Ever in my entire life been short on leaders because I'm grabbing the leader that already exists and I'm deploying them into the opportunity before I give them a freaking title. Well, what if they're going to be the worship leader? Maybe, but I'm still going to hold it before I anoint them with the dang title. Feel free to call him worship director. Here's one that'll just offend them. Here's one to check. Hey, dude, you're going to be a song leader. Just say that and see if they go, oh, well, that's a weird title. Yeah, because it ain't your title, bro. That's what I need you to do right now. That's your task. Come in, play a song. That's your task. Earn influence with me. I might let you take some responsibility for it. I might let you set the set list, aka authority, but you're a song leader until I tell you you're the worship pastor. Title is so far down the line. So far down the line. Number six is pay. That is the last thing I'm giving somebody is pay, which means you can do the first five for literally anyone at your church, including your 9-year-old. But pay, that's staff members, of course, in this case, if we say that. But pay is the last thing I'm giving them. Hey, man, looking for a worship leader. I'd love for you to come on worship. We pay $80,000. You don't even know if you can tie his shoes. He hadn't even logged in Instagram in the last 4 years, which means nobody even knows who this guy is. He has no influence with people out there. He's just friends with a couple of people who happen to work at Group 139, who are all getting paid to send you those posts, by the way. So they're not organically trying to help you. They're paid. It's called affiliate marketing. Sweet mother. Anyway, God bless Group 139, all the guys. But I'm just saying, like, you've jumped all the way over to this thing, and no wonder you're getting people that you hate. No wonder these people last. The tenure of church staff members is like falling so fast right now. Not even right now. It's been happening and just continuing to accelerate because we're so thirsty. Thirsty is the word. You're so eager. You're so thirsty. So don't be that. So task, influence, responsibility, authority, title, pay is the last thing I'm giving them in that order. Now, I can do that entire progression for a Dustin Stradley type, a Greg Basch type, a Jonathan Joseph type. I can do that whole progression right there for that kind of a person, a week, maybe two. Our elevation example of this, and I'm telling you about elevation because they're a great example of, or at least used to be, of a really great corporate setting of how to do this. And I was there on the day one that we built the apprentice program because that was my job. Me and one other guy created the elevation apprentice program, called it Prodigy at the time. It's actually a great title. It's not an ego title, but you had to be there. The apprentice program. So it was 6 months of going through that exact thing. Now, this is not the language you use. This is my stuff. But I'm saying that's a natural progression, like I said, that you do with your kids already, and you shouldn't even know it. And so this is what we did on purpose. So you couldn't get a job at Elevation unless you were going through a 6-month program. And at the end, you might get a job. You might get a job. Might, maybe. As in like 50% on a good day might get a job. And that was all intentional. So if you ever want to know how to grow 20,000 people in about 20 minutes, if you ever want to know how to go change the world and be the biggest Elevation Church online platform that there is in the universe, if you ever want to know how to do that, it's not luck. It's not, well, God put favor on it. Yeah, that's a piece of it. But you don't just say that about everything else in life. You have to still work it. Just know that's sort of the thought process that goes into that stuff is like, hey, let's not be thirsty about hiring somebody and giving them, a title and pay. Let's go ahead and have high standards because we want elite people. We want to be good at it. We don't want people just to do it. There's a Bible verse for that too, by the way, where Paul tells Timothy that very thing, by the way. Bet you didn't know. I know the Bible. It's weird. I know. Tell your mom. That's crazy. Anyway, so that's what we did corporately in a church setting. I can tell you that, and I've helped other churches build some version of that, like internships, apprentice programs, or even just a hiring progression. It might only take you 2, 3, 4 weeks. It's fine, but the point is you still have to work through that progression. And so there you go. Those are the things I think about. There's a million other things I think about. A million other things I think about when it comes to like, okay, well, wait, it's a woman campus pastor, so that's going to I need to evaluate some other things on that. It's not an anti-women statement. It's just an example of how there's differences. Okay, it's a single guy versus a married person. Oh, they have kids. So there's a million other variables I'm thinking through. But this is just the things I go through first, and then, like I said, the 6 phases that I progress through before I anoint them, so to speak, or appoint them as a leader, or staff member. So there you go. I'm officially done with that. I'm happy to stick around for questions. If you need to bounce off, bounce off. Those of you watching playback, man, praise God, you made it this far through this thing. I can't believe you survived. That's awesome. God loves you even more now. But if you have questions or anything, fire away. I will do another conversation at some point about how to fire people. I had a really good conversation with some clients the other day who flew in, and we talked about that. I'm happy to answer some of those questions now. And fire doesn't mean a negative term. It just means to like terminate the employment, move to the next thing. It doesn't have to be like super mean. So we can talk about anything related to that. But if you have questions, let me know. Otherwise, have a great day. I will stick around. But again, for those of you that need to bounce. So, and those of you who enjoy the slurps, I think it's cold now. This is tea, but I wouldn't tweak it for business at all. Now, you have to tell me what you mean, though, but I'm not tweaking it for business at all. I can still give people a task. Well, I got to pay them before they're even allowed to. No, you don't. I can give somebody a task walking into their interview. So I'm not tweaking any of it for staff. Likable still makes sense. Oh, let's talk about I will say this real quick. There's all these HR rules. Well, equal opportunity. You can't hire or fire somebody based on how they look or whatever. I get all that. I totally get all that. But nobody made you say all that, number one. Nobody even made you verbalize anything. But when somebody walks into the door and they're bringing in a puppy because they also identify as a puppy, they don't culturally align with my ministry and my church. So I don't care if you live in communist Canada where you can't fire anybody. You still don't have to say, yeah, we didn't hire them because they identified as a puppy. So there's nuance here. I know you're not asking that specific question, but this does come up a lot about, well, we have HR rules in the state. Okay, cool. So before you even open your mouth, just be like, okay. And then the answer is very, very clear. Hey, thanks so much. We don't feel like you're a cultural fit for us right now. We don't have an opportunity for you because we're identifying other candidates, blah, blah. There's a million ways to deflect and not just bend over and hire somebody because of HR laws or rules. But that's common. That's super common. A lot of people ask those kind of things and do those kind of things. And they're hiring people because they essentially made a promise up front. Hey, we're going to hire you. We just got to have you come in for an interview. Well, now you're screwed. That's your fault. That's just being a terrible leader, terrible thinker, the absence of thinking. But that actually happens all the time. I have some friends like in like professional HR. And I pray for them because I don't know like why you'd want to do that. God bless you if you do that. But it's crazy to me. And they bring up some of this kind of stuff. But again, nobody made you say out loud those things. And you still have all the out in the world to be like, hey, that's great. Awesome. We're going to keep interviewing other candidates. Do that. So that's a weird one. But anyway, I don't know that I'd tweak anything here for business. You can say it nicer than I'm saying it, of course, which I can do if you're a lost person. You want to hear about terminating people? You already heard about me. You already heard about terminating people. So here, ask something specific though if you want. But I'll do another call specifically, like going into all the deep how to terminate people. So, guys, is this thing broken? Because there still shows that there's at least 70 people on this call right now. That can't be right because you're either not asking any questions or you're still sitting here while the dog barks. So. But I'll sit around here for a minute and wait for you. I wish I could sum up music out there for you, but I can't. All right. In the meantime, Taylor Shytle, Jordan Deese, Dustin Stradley, Greg Basch, Wade Joy, some people you need to know, Seth Nolan, Forrest Coleman. These are some guys you need to know. Will Law. Will, you might still be on here. I don't know if y'all know Will Law. He's in Erie, PA, Elevate Church. Y'all really need to know him. That's somebody you can follow along and learn from. He's not like celebrity preacher guy. And that's great because it's also not his desire. Praise God for that. A lot of people just need to admit that that's their desire for themselves, and they they like to say that they're not. Side note. Anyway, but yeah, Will's a great guy. He leads a regular sized church in a very small town, relatively small town. So if you want a regular person to pay attention to, instead of like, well, I could never do that because we don't have millions of dollars. Or whatever, great. Follow Will Law, Elevate Church in Erie, PA. That's somebody else you should know. Your brand new church, they didn't inherit staff from ascending church. Does this change in all? Nothing. Nothing changes in my mind. Um, uh, no, that's not true. Jordan, are you a professional liar, Jordan? Is that what you are? But seriously, everybody needs to follow Jordan Deese. Y'all don't know. So Jordan Deese is the reason that uh, Aaron Burke is actually even alive. So everybody knows Aaron Burke. He's a famous celebrity preacher guy with a good tan and really good arms over called Radiant Church in Tampa, or Radiant Church is. There's like, I think 106 of them or something like that. But Jordan is the real reason that that place is successful. So y'all need to know Jordan Deese. He would never say any of that, of course. I know that because Aaron can beat him up. But that's who Jordan is. Y'all need to know Jordan. Y'all need to go to Radiant Church and go see those people over there. I shout out Gagi and Nito Beza at Vision Church all the time at Riverview, but the reason I'm not saying it really now is because they're like, "Whoa, dude, we're nobody. We don't even know what we're talking about," and they have all that stuff. So that's why they want to shout them out. Let y'all know to follow them. Anyways, does this change in your mind if you didn't inherit staff from ascending church? Praise God, you didn't have ascending church. I actually think that's an overplayed, overthought, misunderstood, misdefined strategy of having ascending church that just ships out a bunch of people to you, aka they loan you people that are going to build something out of preference and then get tired of it and move away and rip all that back out, and you're going to be shocked a year or two later why it doesn't pan out. I just described 99% of ascending church opportunities, dead serious, including multi-site churches. I may know a thing or two about multi-site and sending churches. So I'm actually not a fan of it. I'm not saying it can't work. I'm not saying that some of you don't have a good experience with it, but generally speaking, it's a hilarious at best thing. So I think you're actually doing really, really good. See, he's an undocumented Mexican, says Gagi. Anyway, but you do have people. Who am I talking to? Eric. Yeah, you do have people in your church. I said this earlier that can do every single thing. No, we don't have any of our church that knows how to do sound. I don't care. I didn't know how to do sound until I learned how to do sound, and then I became an actual paid professional sound man. That's a real story. I actually used to get paid for a living to do sound. I bet you didn't know that. So, but I didn't know how. But at some point, somebody's going to learn. You're going to teach somebody. You're going to call a favor. Hey, instead of me hiring $100,000 overpriced, hype-driven ego guy who knows how to run sound, can I pay you $1,000 to just fly here and teach my guy how to do sound? Like that's what I'd be doing. I'd be asking a bunch of sound guys that question rather than, we don't have a guy. So you can play that same logic across the board. Everybody you need to do literally, I can't stress this enough, Eric, every single role you can imagine in your church exists in your church. They're not ready-made. And even if you found them that were ready-made, they're not going to be a cultural fit. I would not recommend anybody going staff shopping at an elevation type, life church, union, pick your what is it now? What's the Philip Mitchell? Like I would not recommend staff shopping in any church because they're going to bring a skill without any of the culture you need, and you're going to be climbing uphill to make them fit. And occasionally, short number of times, will they fit? It is very, very difficult to do. I can do a whole nother call for you if you want about how to merge staff members, aka you adopted somebody from another church, but that's not gonna solve your problem at all. Not to mention people that come from other churches come with baggage 100% of the time, myself included. Everybody does. Okay. Some people are better about throwing it out. I'm a pretty good guy about throwing it out. I don't keep stuff. I'm not nostalgic in that way. I'm nostalgic in a productive way, but not like, we have to do it my way kind of way. So you can get rid of some of it, yes, but they all come with that. They all are always going to be overpriced, always, because they're going to want you to pay them that price at your church. And just because they have good skill, that somehow magically doesn't make your budget go up, does it? So I still don't understand why we try to shop at other churches so much for staff members. Other than we're lazy. That's really it. We have no confidence in ourselves. We have no understanding about how to do it, which I hopefully was able to solve some of that today. And then at the end of the day, we're just lazy. We just like to, it's just easy to complain that, well, that city over there's bigger and those people have that. And if I was a celebrity preacher, I could have a lot of people working in my church. Trust me, I know people at all the churches that you want to work at or know of. Name your favorite celebrity preacher, whether they're in Vegas, Seattle, Charlotte, Orlando. Start naming them. And I bet I know a staff member there, probably their executive pastor, and I bet they're asking me the exact same questions. The exact same questions, by the way. So, all right, keep going. Anybody out there besides the undocumented Mexicans? It's funny. Taylor sent me a message here. Taylor Shytle. Any tips on running with the current staff that were inherited? I got to make some moves. Yes, did I do this call before? There's definitely a Substack post about it, but standards. I want standards. Standards, standards, standards. People have bad staff. Excuse me, you inherit whoever you inherit. That's just how life is on some level, fine. But nobody made you leave them that way. So you create and you communicate standards. I would love to creating standards is a team sport, by the way. Let's all get together. How do you think we ought to greet? What does it mean to be a good greeter? What's our church philosophy, even your doctrine behind greeting? And I think there's biblical background for this, by the way, on how you should do greeting and like have a guest experience process. By the way, I think I actually teach on that from a Bible, like with like red letters. It's wild. Um, so you can come up with standards however you want. The point is to have a standard. You need to look up the word standard in the dictionary, though, because a lot of people don't know that. What they think they have is standards, but what they have is wishes and assumptions and preferences, but they don't have standards. Okay. And by definition, if you don't hold to a standard, then you don't have standards. If the standards can move, it's not a standard. So I just rocked most people's world right there because you don't have standards. So start standards, and the standards will self-police. Now, again, like I said, if you don't hold to your standards, no wonder the staff are still stupid. Well, I got this guy, he just doesn't do what we ask him to do. I don't understand what you just said to me. I want to punch you in the face and give your salary to that guy because he's clearly in charge of the church because he can't be fired for low standards, and you're complaining as the standard because you're the lead pastor or whatever your role is. Again, I just described so many churches right there. That is wild to me. So have freaking standards, and that'll solve a lot of problems, good and bad, with the people that you inherited. And then again, standards are just, they can be anything you want. They can be your preference, but when you write it down and said this is now law, it kind of now becomes a standard. We start at 9:30. That's the standard. So you're gonna like wear pants to church. That's the standard. You can do those kind of things, but a lot of churches don't have standards. They have opinions, they have preferences, they have wishes, they have under their breath assumptions from the lead pastor that never get passed down correctly. They don't have standards. So that definitely is another long call. I just saved you $1,000 on the spot right there. I probably made you another $500,000 in the next 12 months if you paid attention to what I just said right there. It's crazy. I do have access to a time machine. It's a great restaurant in San Antonio called Magic Time Machine. Do you believe in an executive pastor role to work with other staff members? And yes, no. What? First of all, I don't even like the title of executive pastor. Shockingly enough, Elevation doesn't have an executive pastor. A lot of churches don't. That's just an old inherited title from 1,000 years ago that everybody keeps using, but nobody can define what it means. Well, they're an administrator. They just say administrator. Well, they're a finance guy. Then just say finance guy. So executive pastor is a catch-all, which is why everybody generally sucks at it or doesn't know how to operate with one because it's just like that guy in the middle that has a lot of authority, but he's not really a good leader. Typically overweight, wears a lot of polo shirts, but he's not really good at his job. I was an executive pastor, but it was, again, a dumb title that didn't make sense. So we had to communicate. Here's what I do, though. So first of all, I don't know what you mean by executive pastor. Don't try to write it out. We don't have time for that. But I'm just saying that's a bigger deal. Is it their role to work with other staff members? It's every staff member's job to work with other staff members. I don't just mean be employed with them. I mean to work actively with them. Okay. Every staff I've been on, I have worked down and up, like legitimately, as in like ruffled feathers with Stephen Furtick himself and said, hey, that's not what we do here. Actually, the contract about your TV ministry says this. It doesn't say that. So we all work with other staff members. So again, I might just not be understanding your specific scenario, but again, that doesn't really compute with me. What's the line between staff responsibility and that role? Again, I don't fully understand because that role's too vague. But then again, a lot of other roles are vague. Again, worship pastor is different than a worship leader, which is different than a song leader, which is different than a vocalist with the hoodie in the summertime. Those are all different things, but we like to just call them worship leaders. So I think a lot of that comes down to definitions and standards. If we have not worked together, I just told you in this case you probably should. I can't afford it. I don't know how to help you. I'm cheaper than everybody else out there, but maybe we can do that. Let's see. I mentioned most of us churches catering to new Christians. How do we help people change their mindset, move from church member to team member? I'm assuming you mean like to get on the team to start serving, making a difference, contributing. I think it's a generally just human principle, not a church principle, that people want to matter, right? Who's the person that talks about the hierarchy of needs for humans? But people want to be needed and known. I mean, you can land on that list right there, needed and known. AKA they want to matter. They want to do something with perfect purpose or whatever. And a lot of times at church, we communicate our need, but we don't communicate their purpose. Dang, that reminds me of something else I just said. Oh, that's the Substack series this week. Or last 2 weeks. The first question is you have to ask yourself before we create an assimilation process, next steps class or whatever, you need to ask, what do you believe about them? What is your church's philosophy about those people? why do they exist? What's their place in the story of God? So on and so forth. And a lot of churches don't ever answer that. They say, Swebb, how do you get more people to serve on a team? That's what they ask. That's a dumb question. That's a really, really dumb question. But what do you believe about them? Well, then now you need to engineer the conversation around, okay, well, here's what we believe about you. In light of that, does our church exist to then further that belief about you? Now, if you believe they're just a means to an end, well, then your process will reflect that, and you will get as many people that want to do that. So, but if you're a church that you believe that they have a place in the story of God and it aligns with your particular expression of church, attractional, super Pentecostal, big tent, revivals in the parking lot, everything in between, great, whatever, then you're going to attract people who do that. I do find it to be difficult to completely change people's values. I think it's a lot easier to tweak people's values because people value stuff, right? Whatever that is, excellent production experience, whether it be in a concert or in church, it doesn't matter. So you can tweak it and be like, hey, yeah, we do that here. We just do it at church, But a lot of times we're trying to, we come into things like we're going to completely wreck their world. God's going to wreck your world, brother. Like that is not a good advertisement ever. That's terrible language. But we talk about it in those ways, and then they feel that they have to completely upend everything in their life, their regular Monday through Saturday life, in order to fit your team because of how we talk. So at the end of the day, you have to what do you believe about people? And then once you provide the value of their need to be needed and known, they want to contribute, they want to be a part of something bigger than themselves. Yes, that takes effort. They don't have a problem doing effort. Again, I said this the other day on an Instagram comment to an idiot. Like the PGA Tour, the Tiger Woods, the Bryson DeChambeau, like the PGA Tour runs on volunteers. You get there at 4 a.m. You ride a bus an hour away from the parking lot. And then you just stand there in the blazing heat for the next 4, 5, 6, 7 days, depending on what time you started at your tournament. And they are run on volunteers. They have no problem. They have no problem finding volunteers because the PGA just has a better product than most churches. That's why. They have understood their audience. They provided a better product for it. They probably actually provided their team or their volunteers with a couple free rounds of golf too. Churches don't do that. They probably provided them more than just a couple donuts and some mediocre coffee while claiming to be coffee snobs because we're a trendy church. They probably did a little bit more than that. So the PGA Tour runs on volunteers. So, and that goes back to they just know who they're trying to reach and what they're trying to talk to, who they're trying to talk to. And so at that point, my point to all that is I don't think it's hard to move people from just a person into the team or membership and into a team or whatever, once you know your belief about them. And then the other thing I'd say about that, this goes into a lot of the conversation too, though, is your every single product you create will create an audience. This is true in any business. Now, if you create a product to compete with another business, to me, that's the wrong mission. You shouldn't be doing that. Although I understand some people will overlap. Some people will change from Apple to, whatever, Google phone or whatever. Those kind of things do happen. But you don't create a product for that reason. You can. Some people do. Some businesses do. And it lasts for a minute and they'll make a profit right then and then sell and move. That's called private equity right now. They just lower the quality of everything, but they made a quick buck. So that is private equity. But if you make a product which is like, hey, we're going to create this expression of church and believe these things about these people in Erie, PA, then you will attract an audience. That it might just not be the audience you thought about because you were comparing yourself to another church over there or an assumption over there, or even to a video I made 6 states south of you in a different city doing a different job. I'm not a pastor of a church anymore. I don't do that kind of stuff. You see what I'm saying? So we're always comparing to the wrong thing. And I think that gets you sideways. And so you're not creating a pure product, if you will. So long conversation. I don't know if I super duper helped you right there. But at the end of the day, I just have never found that hard to get people to plug into church. Never have. So, all right. Well, nobody's commenting anymore. So let me check my email. Okay, I got to rent a car. I want to go to Walla Walla next weekend. All right, there's that. Cool. Every time I hit unsubscribe from these places, it still sends me an email. Does that happen to you guys? So it's kind of frustrating. All right, well. Yeah, Marvelous. I have a whole series on the assimilation stuff for the last 2 weeks. It's 8 posts long. Ended on Wednesday. I need to write a few more. I think I might have promised a few more in there. I don't know, but you have enough. Everybody has enough, at least on that series, to at least build a better assimilation process. 100% believe that. Okay, I'm going to count to 5, and if you don't ask me a question, I guess I'm going to quit and get out of here and go for a run or something. So if you have any other questions, DM, comment, message, text, don't call me. I'll see you in Orlando. For those of you that are coming to Orlando to learn about your year-end offering, to take in the biggest offering in the history of your church like clockwork, because it's not even that difficult, but some of you are making it difficult. If anybody is short on money, I can actually help you solve that every single time. So, you promised your own opinion. That's right. That's exactly what I'm talking about, Jordan. I knew that's the post out there that I need to do. So, and I'll actually try to knock that out today and then post it today or tomorrow. I don't like posting two subsects on the same day. But if you're reading, then all right. All right. Thanks, guys, for chiming in and being here. I can't even believe, Jordan, you lasted the entire time. Did you get fired? You had to get fired. There's no way you're watching this whole thing for that. The rest of you guys, I don't know if y'all are here. I love y'all. Thank y'all. And hopefully we'll catch you again on the flip side.